Sims here in day 5. This is page number 20 of our probability and statistics booklet. And today's lesson objective is I can find and compare measures of variation. Okay, so in getting the idea, we'll talk about what those measures of variation are. And we're going to look at two different ways, two different organizational displays that we can use. And one of them you're familiar with, the dot plot. And then another one is called a box and whisker plot. All right, so getting the idea. All right, so instead of describing the center of a data, usually, which is a measures of central tendency. Okay, actually, you guys to go ahead and read this. Hit pause, read this, and then we'll come back. All right, we read this. So we talk about when data arranged from least to greatest. That's the important thing. You have to arrange the data in order. Sometimes that order is not given to you, so you have to do that. You have to do that when you find the median. The first quartile, and breaks it down into 3 quartiles. So actually, let's just go right down the data set and we'll talk about this. So here we've got a set of data that is put in order from least to greatest. Okay, the range is what we call the greatest value. So this would be, the range of these scores would be 5 minus 1, which equals 4. Move that down. Okay, so this is the range. Okay, the interquartile range, which is abbreviated with IQR. Sometimes they don't like to write that word out a lot. IQR. That is the range from the first quartile to the third quartile. So the first quartile in this case is 2. And the third quartile actually is between 3 and 4, which would be 3.5. So the interquartile range would be 3.5 minus 2, which is 1.5. All right. Okay. So let's get on to some examples about finding and comparing measures of variation from different skills. So move on to example number 1. All right, here we have a dot plot. Shows the grades students received on a grammar test in Miss Parsee's class. Okay. What is the range in the grades? Well, the lowest grade being range. The highest grade is 94. Minus the lowest grade, which is 81, so the range is 13. So it's spread out by 13 points. What is the median grade? Okay, the median grade is going to be the middle grade. And on a dot plot, there's lots of different ways you can do this, but what I do is I'm going to just go left and right, and I'm just going to cross the dots off. So cross off, cross off, cross off, until I get to the middle. So see what I'm doing? I'm just going back and forth. Next lowest with the next highest. 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 And there are 3 of them here, but all 3 of them are 85, so the median is 5. All right. So now these 2 value points out here, they have a special name. These are called outliers. And an outlier is something that doesn't really match the rest of the data. So you can see how most of the values are really kind of close together here, and then you've got a couple of them out here that we'll consider the outliers. And the outliers don't really impact the median that much. They definitely impact the mean. They can definitely impact that mean. All right. Okay, example number 2 is a box plot, or box and whisker plot. And I know you may have never seen this before, but really it's just a way of spreading out your data. Your points here are your lower extreme and your upper extreme, so your lowest value, highest value. Your median is the line that appears in the middle. You won't have to be able to make these this year. Later on in math you will. First quartile and third quartile. So all you really have to do is be able to identify some of these values using this plot. All right, so then of course you have to remember low, quarter 1, median, which is also sometimes called the second quartile. So think of it as like a football game or a basketball game. End of the first quarter, halftime. Third quarter, end of the game. All right. Box plot is a good way to show spread. Example number 2. The box plot below shows the ages of Mr. Morehouse's grandchildren. Find the mean, first quartile, third quartile, interquartile range of their scores. Okay, so the median is that in the middle. So the median equals 18. The first quartile is this point here, so this would be 16. Third quartile is this point right here, which would be 22. And then the inner quartile range is equal to the third quartile minus the first quartile. So we take 22 minus 16, which would be 6. Right? And that's really all there is to it. Right. Example number 3. We will skip for right now. And we'll move on to example number 4. In example number 4, now we've got 2 box and whisker plots. And you're being asked to find the range in the interquartile range. Who is more consistent scorer? So sometimes you have to make predictions based on what you have. So find the range in the interquartile range for each player. So we'll start with Missy. Range. And sometimes we look at the interquartile range because outliers affect the overall range. So what I mean is going back to this problem back here. These 2 outliers are going to affect the entire range. Where if we looked at the interquartile range, you can see that those values would be a little bit closer together. All right, so that's why. The range for Missy would be from 18 to 0, so 18 minus 0, which is 18. Okay, and her interquartile range is from here, from this point to this point. So we're going to say that's 15. 15 minus 12, which equals 3. Right? And then you've got Lucia. Her range is from, looks like 17 to 10. So 17 minus 10, which is 7. And her interquartile range is from 14 to 11, which is 3. So if you notice for both of these, their interquartile range are the same. Right. And then the range, if you notice here, this has a wider range. So the more consistent scorer is Lucia. Right. So you have some problems in the thick or yellow packet as the announcements for the end of the day are coming on, but this is Mr. Sims signing off.